Fake news is news, stories or hoaxes created to deliberately misinform or deceive readers. Some people may have a lot of brain power that allows them to perform well in exams, but don't apply it when reading newspaper headlines or navigating the internet. These people tend to rely on their gut instinct or their biases instead of critical thinking to decide whether an assertion is true or false. Now, having completed this critical thinking course, you should be in a much better position to critically analyse any headline, statement or assertion. Which of these statements do you think is fake news? And what information do you think you would need to establish whether each statement is true or false? Couple decide to name their daughter Brexit. Smartphone radiation is causing brain damage. Strong radio signal picked up from outer space. First contact. Many of us rarely give our full attention when reading news statements, and so we are vulnerable to false claims. The following checklist may help you to avoid the next batch of fake news that is on its way to you now, even as we speak. 1. Have a healthy skepticism about any claim and use all the critical thinking skills you have now acquired. Remember the statement we started with. Take nothing on authority without sufficient proof. 2. Check the facts and do not share something without checking. 3. Read the entire article and take a closer look at what has been written or said. 4. Check the source of the story. If it is online, do you recognize the website? 5. Are other reputable news media outlets reporting on the story? We are now entering a very challenging time where the ordinary citizen is bombarded every minute of every day with claims and assertions from advertisers, politicians, experts and commentators of every sort. Coupled with that, we have now entered the era of fake news and deep fake news. Fake news itself is nothing new, but the idea itself is now used to attack what is true and leaves the ordinary citizen bewildered as to what to believe. Deep fake news, which we will look at later, can in some cases make it impossible to draw any distinction between what is true and what is false. Some experts believe that this new trend has the potential to undermine the very democratic system we have come to rely on. Faced with these threats, all we can do as citizens is develop critical thinking skills and bring a healthy skepticism to all we hear, see or read. This skepticism should never be exchanged for cynicism or a plague on all your houses mentality. We have to develop critical thinking skills to engage fully with the major problems facing the world. We have to fully inform ourselves about these issues and come to conclusions about them, because some of them will have profound consequences, not only for our future, but for many generations to come. Of course, not all public arguments are written or spoken. In addition to the critical reading skills we talked about earlier, special scrutiny is needed when listening to and viewing arguments in other media. I use the term multimodal here because we now turn to arguments that use words in combination with another medium or that use a mode other than the printed word to get a message across. I refer to pictures, audio, video, and digital media. We will use 4 tools in our multimodal toolbox when trying to uncover the essential elements of claim, support, and warrant in multimodal arguments. These 4 principles are general guidelines for all visuals, but we will also consider additional guidelines for specific types of visuals, for example, photographs, print advertisements, political cartoons, graphics. The general strategies for all visuals are: 1. Pre-reading. Getting an overview of a text, photograph, other media. Where, when, how questions. 2. Reading for content. To read a visual means to see what is there, pictures and text. Identify any claim, supports or warrant that may lie hidden. Sometimes these parts of the Tullman model may not be present, but it is important to make an effort to establish whether this is in fact the case. 3. Reading for rhetorical strategies. To consider the composition of the visual. Why are things arranged as they are? 4. Evaluation. How effective is the visual in making its case or claim? Remember that not every visual image makes a statement or presents an argument. Some, however, do so in a way that the printed word alone cannot. For example, if an image arouses emotion in you or brings to mind a controversial issue, it is making some kind of statement or claim to you. If you uncovered a claim, supports or warrant at the reading for content stage, how effective was the image or presentation in making its claim? Supporting its claim. Whenever you see the CSW logo, you know you should prepare an examination of the presentation along Tullman lines. This examination should take place at the reading for content stage and its effectiveness assessed at the evaluation stage. Pre-reading. With a visual, pre-reading includes noticing who took or otherwise created the picture or graphic. But often more important are the context and purpose. It may also be relevant when and where the visual was published. Print ads especially are targeted for a particular audience. The same ad in different versions often appears in different publications. With a political cartoon, the political context is critical to understanding the humour. Graphics are meant to convey information about a particular issue. Reading for content. To read a visual means to see what is there, pictures and text. Published images are usually carefully planned to convey a message by means of who or what is shown. Try to read this ad for Netflix. What does it say to you? What claim, if any, is it making? What supports, if any, is it offering for any claim made? Write down your thoughts and be prepared to stand up and give your interpretation of this image to the group or class. Reading for rhetorical strategies. Rhetoric is the art of persuasion. Strategy is a plan to achieve an overall aim. Rather than giving reasons and presenting arguments to support conclusions, Those who use rhetoric employ a battery of techniques, such as using emphatic assertion, persuader words, and emotive language. Visual rhetoric also uses a battery of techniques, for example, placement of objects in the visual, to draw the eye and attention to a particular item in the photo, in print or video, etc. This is usually called framing. The use of focus, sharp and blurred, can also emphasize the thing in focus. These techniques and many more are used to persuade without giving reasons and presenting arguments to support conclusions. Visual rhetoric or visual persuasion is at work in this photograph. As a viewer, consider the composition of the visual. Why did the photographer place things where he or she did? Why are some objects in sharp focus and others not? Write down your thoughts and be prepared to stand up and give your interpretation of this image to the group or class. Why in an ad is the text a certain size and placed in a certain location? How does the eye move about the ad? Why is the logo where it is? Why is the product placed where it is? In a cartoon, what does the physical appearance suggest about the characters? In a graphic, what data is being highlighted? Evaluation. Consider how effective the visual is in achieving its purpose. If the poster, ad, etc. set out to make a claim, how convinced are you that the various techniques and strategies used succeeded in making the claim credible? How does the photograph make you feel? Does an ad make you want to buy a product? Does the cartoon make you consider a new perspective? Does the graphic aid your understanding of a complex issue? You've probably seen powerful still images in photographic journalism. Soldiers in battle, destruction by weather disasters, beautiful natural landscapes, inhuman living conditions, the great mushroom clouds of early atomic explosions. These photographs and thousands of others encapsulate claims of fact. The storm flooded Patrick Street. Value. The lakes of Killarney are the most beautiful lakes in Ireland. Policy. We must not allow human beings live like this. Sometimes captions are used to help get the photograph's message across. Hurricane Katrina was a large Category 5 Atlantic hurricane that caused over 1,800 deaths and $125 billion in damage in August 2005, particularly in the city of New Orleans and the surrounding areas. In the aftermath of the storm, 2 images surfaced that would fuel controversy around race and perception in the coming days, weeks, and years. The controversy centred on 2 photographs and their respective captions. One from Associated Press photographer Dave Martin showed a young black man wading through water while holding a bag and a case of soft drinks. The accompanying caption read, "A young man walks through chest-deep water after looting a grocery store in New Orleans on Tuesday, August the 30th, 2005. A second photo from Chris Grayson for Getty Images showed a similar scene, but this time it was of a white couple clutching bags of food. Their actions were captioned as two residents wade through chest-deep water after finding bread and soda near a grocery store after Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans. The two photographs gained wide circulation in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina in 2005. They seemed innocuous enough when seen without commentary, except to show the extent of the flooding. These photographs and their accompanying captions caused such a response that Yahoo News, who uploaded the images and captions, felt it necessary to offer an apology. Yahoo News regrets that these photos and captions, taken together, may have suggested a racial bias on our part. Implicit bias. An implicit bias is an unconscious association, belief or attitude towards any social group. Due to implicit biases, people may often attribute certain qualities or characteristics to all members of a particular group, a phenomenon known as stereotyping. Try to spot the implicit bias in the two photographs. How do you think you could dismiss the charge of implicit bias or racial stereotyping? At the time, the Associated Press stood by its description, pointing to the guidelines for justification of using the word looting rather than carrying. An AP spokesman said that the photographer saw the person go into the shop and take the goods, and that's why he wrote looting in the caption. Getty also stuck by its description to use finding. In a blog days later, the photographer Chris Grayson further explained his reasoning. These people were not ducking into a store and bursting down windows to get electronics. They picked up bread and cokes that were floating in the water. They would have floated away anyway. Use all your critical thinking skills to examine these two images. Now, apply our 4 guidelines of pre-reading, some information provided already, reading for content plus claim, support, warrant, reading for rhetorical strategy, evaluation and claim, support, warrant. Evaluate these images and be prepared to stand in front of your group or class and talk about your findings and insights. Use the following questions to help you. After reading both photographs for content, what conclusions have you come to? Is it the case that people see what they want to see? Is it the case that we have our own narrative and we are on the lookout for comments and developments that back it up? What other groups in society do you think could find themselves at the receiving end of this type of stereotyping? Why? In our third photograph, we again approach the image in a methodical way to uncover any argument that might be hidden beneath the surface. Pre-read. Find out as much as you can about the image. Who is pictured? What is the full story and context behind the photograph? Who is the photographer? Why did he or she take the photograph? Was the photo published, and if so, where was it published? Reading for content. Read both the picture and text. What sort of expression does Milvertha have on her face? Milvertha Hendricks was a victim of Hurricane Katrina. What do you think about the rescue of the Katrina victims? If you have not read anything about this aspect of the hurricane's devastation, research this topic now and then spell out how your research affects your reading of the photograph. What claim might you infer from the photograph? How effectively is the claim supported by the image? Is there a warrant at work here? How does the image make you feel? Rhetorical strategies. Consider the composition of the photograph. Why did the photographer place things where he or she did? What draws your eye into the photograph? How might the flag blanket be seen as symbolic? If you see it as a symbol, then what does that symbol mean to you? Evaluation. How effective is the image in making its claim? Can you uncover an implicit or explicit warrant? Look at this photo and read it for content. Read both the picture and text. The photographer's intent seems fairly clear in this photo. After identifying the photographer's intent or claim, read the photograph for rhetorical strategy. List as many visual rhetorical devices used as you can. Consider the focus and placement of text and visuals. What draws your eye? Evaluate. How does the photo make you feel? What mood does it create? Is it effective in achieving its goal? Has it succeeded in making its claim, and have all the strategies deployed here supported that claim? Pre-read this image. Consider who might have created this image. What could the context be? Where do you think this could have been published or displayed? Read for content. Read both the text and the image. How are they linked? What is the claim here? What supports are offered? Is there an underlying warrant at work? Read for rhetorical strategies. Consider the placement and focus of text and visuals. In general, what draws your eye in? Evaluate. Historically, what feelings were you supposed to have after viewing this image? What mood do you think the image created? Do you think it was successful at the time? Did it successfully prove its claim? Would it be as effective today? Give reasons why or why not. In 1947, one analyst summed up the goals of the advertiser, which are still very relevant today. 1. Attract attention. 2. Arouse interest. 3. Stimulate desire. 4. Create conviction. 5. Get action. Read this advertisement for the Paddy Power betting chain and judge whether it is in line with the goals of the 1947 summary. On the one hand, you have arresting images like this one for betting firms, drinks companies, etc. And on the other hand, you have famine appeals. Photographs, posters and billboards are not the only visual images used by advertisers. Today, we live in an advertising world dominated by brand names and symbols. These brands may be defined as shortened claims of value. A closer look at commercial and political advertising, which is heavily dependent on visual argument and is something we are all familiar with, provides a useful introduction to this complex subject. We know that advertisements without pictures are short arguments, often lacking fully developed supports whose claims of policy urge us to take an action. Buy this product or service, vote for this candidate or issue. The claim may not be directly expressed, but it will be clearly implicit. In print, on television, or on the internet, the visual representation of objects, carefully chosen to appeal to a particular audience, can be as important as, if not more important than, verbal text. Study this ad closely and try to understand what the ad wants you to believe. Do your pre-reading. Who is the sponsor? What other pre-reading items should you check? Reading for content. What does the sponsor want me to do? Etc. What claim, if any, is being made here? What other content items should you consider? Reading for rhetorical strategy. Are the visual elements more prominent than the text? If so, why? Does the arrangement of elements in the message tell me what the sponsor considers most important? If so, what is the significance of this choice? What other rhetorical strategies should you be on the lookout for? Evaluation. How effective is this ad in supporting any claim you may have uncovered? Does the visual image lead you to entertain unrealistic expectations? Bring forward all the insights and techniques you have acquired so far to critically analyze this advertisement. Take a quick look at some of these questions. They might help you engage with this image, but do not rely on them exclusively in your analysis. 1. Who is the sponsor? 2. What does the sponsor want me to do? 3. What is the claim? Is it expressed implicitly or explicitly? 4. Is there sufficient text to answer questions I may have about the claim? 5. Are the visual elements more prominent than the text? If so, why? 6. Does the arrangement of elements in the message tell me what the sponsor considers most important? If so, what is the significance of this choice? And 7. Does the visual image lead me to entertain unrealistic expectations?